five books on very prominent mythological characters, women characters, and she has already done three of them. And tell us, Koral, more about this five books that you plan to write and have already written three of them. And how did this exciting journey begin for you? Uh, and how is it going right now?
Sometimes things happen, it's totally unplanned. So I did have in my mind the idea of Panchkanya, who I felt were very, very interesting characters. And what actually struck my mind was Panchkanya, this particular term, which is a Vedic term, has been translated as five virgins.
Mm-hmm.
And that caught my attention because all these five women have had relationships beyond their marriage. And I mean, at least you may not know enough about Ahalya or Mandodari or Tara, but you know Kunti and Draupadi, right? And then, so, I mean, ancient literature is calling them virgins. So I found it very interesting, and it was also telling me that this entire discourse on uh, women's body and relating women's body with women's purity is such a
Yeah.
sham because I come from Bengal, and in Bengal, it's a very big, I mean, Sati is a very big political word.
Yeah.
And we have had, in the name of Sati, women have been killed. And here, and all of those were in the name of religion, where suddenly I discovered religious texts which are saying Panchkanya, and all these five women have had
Yeah.
multiple relationships, but uh, those relationships were justified in more ways than one. There were lots of reasons, and there were lots of things going on in their lives, and fantastic leadership journeys. So that just blew apart my mind that till now, whatever we have been told about mythology, about our perception of uh, Hindu women, had been so compromised because across the various patriarchal eras, we have been made to believe that our religion and our culture prefers timid, obedient women who should, stay in control and stuff like that, and who are dependent on men for their emancipation. So that just some bubble just got busted, and that was actually my one sentence pitch to Pan Macmillan. And I, of course, wrote the pitch thinking that I'm talking about five books. They'll say no, and I think they were braver than me as an author. I mean, I pitched it with full confidence that they'll say no, and they said yes. That is really something I am grateful about.
So yes, I was saying that I have heard of three books like trilogies or maybe two parts, but this is brave, of course, and it definitely means that you have a lot to say, right? You have so many powerful women whose stories you want to say. And before this, I think you have written largely romantic novels, relationship novels. So tell, and it has been, I think, over a decade that you have been writing and publishing books. So
Exactly
I
a
mean,
decade.
yeah, so I'm always very excited to understand what keeps you going, as in what keeps an author going in an age where we are so distracted to put together so many books, even to read so many books. People need, at least I'm talking about the larger population. People need a lot of discipline, a lot of I don't know, interest. What keeps you going, Coral?
Actually, I think most of the authors, and I will specifically talk about me, but I know that in general this applies to everybody, that we observe a lot, and whatever we observe sometimes create some kind of pressure in the sense that socially, personally, uh, and otherwise, we get very, very disturbed. We are sensitive people. We get very, very disturbed about things that a lot of other people can ignore and move on. And it stays within us. And those are the things we took as stories and try to tell people uh, about that feeling. No, I mean, if I have to tell you that story in first person, it will sound like a rant. But when I tell the same story through someone else, it
Mm,
becomes, I mean, if you like it, you will call it a masterpiece, maybe. So I think that happens. And as a woman, and as a sensitive woman, and as a person who has grown up in literature, as a person who has loved literature, I have spent my graduation was in Shantiniketan. So
oh,
I have been exposed to different to the the art space in many different ways, and I have had many different push and a lot of questions that I had in my mind. Maybe I couldn't address them as a child, as a teenager, as a young professional. Maybe those are coming out when I am writing
writing.
the books after, because I get to explore a lot of things about people's minds. And
Correct.
I mean, I would like to really say this, that when women write stories, and this is no bias for women, it is hormonal. It is, it is how we are made of. That when women write stories, they just don't write stories, or they just don't do justice to themselves. They do justice to every kind of, you know, being around them,
True.
because that is how they're made of. So women's stories are not just women's stories; they're men's stories too, from a different perspective. So that,
Absolutely.
I think, has been a big motivation to rediscover people as a whole
Mm.
and not just stay angry at them.
So these women who you write about, Draupadi, Ahalya, Kunti, do you see any of them as some kind of a role model for you or for rest of the generation? Or do you think that it is too much to put women on a pedestal and try and uh, glorify them beyond a point? Because at the end of the day, everybody is human and to err is human. So do you like consider any of these women you're writing about as your role model, or you see them as regular people like
See, when I'm
us?
writing Panchkanya, these are not the stories of perfect women. Uh, they are from the epics, and epics are considered religious and all that. But these are not the women who didn't make mistakes. They made grave mistakes, but then they owned up the mistakes. They didn't run away from the consequences,
Right.
and they faced it and they turned it. You know,
Very true.
they tried to make the best uh, out of it, and that is what I think we all are doing. So, I role more than role model. I think the uh, the characters. I think they feature in our contemporary lives in a big way. I mean, in Kunti, I see. I remember a lot of people asked me that Kunti is known to be very manipulative. So when I was writing Kunti, a lot of people asked me that, do you, put her as a manipulative character? And when I was writing, I figured that Kunti was not manipulative. Kunti was ambitious.
Yeah.
When a woman is ambitious,
Yeah.
you use the terms like manipulative because you
Correct.
don't want women to be ambitious,
Yeah.
probably. So
Like I
all
can
of
do what
these,
it takes. Like I can do what it takes
yeah,
to be there, right? So
yeah, and Kunti's main identity is that of a mother,
yeah.
and motherhood is extremely ambitious. It is more ambitious than anybody else, any other profession in the world. So, in contemporary world, I feel all of us I mean, Draupadi is one name which people don't take very easily because they associate her with with a sad part of her life, her
Mahabharat,
entire
yeah.
life. When Draupadi was known for being, she was famous as a homemaker. Her hospitality was, famous.
Hmm.
People have just, that part is totally erased from public memory, and they remember her as the victim of molestation. And so
Yeah.
you just type Draupadi in Google Images and you find an angry woman, open
Hmm.
hair,
Hmm.
red eyes, crying, fallen on the floor. That
Yeah.
has become her only identity. But if you look at it, we all at different stages of life have been Draupadi, all of us.
Yeah.
And this I say not just for women, men too.
Yeah.
everybody who has been ambitious and who has tried to, hold their world together in their best possible way, that person has been misunderstood and ill-treated by their own people to begin with.
Absolutely.
And all of us who are into some form of creativity probably have been through that phase when we felt that, ये तो हमारे अपने लोग थे. These were
Mm.
our own people. How could they do this to me?
Mm.
But then you see up and down, right and left, every small and big personality will be able to recall that one phase when their own people, people whom they trusted, people whom they loved, uh, have betrayed or
Mm.
caused them grave sadness which they were not expecting. And there has been a battle in their personal life to deal with it all alone.
True.
And so that makes all of us Draupadi. But if you tell anybody that I would like to, if you say that you get a Arjuna award, say, "बहुत कुछ हो जाता है." You say that you get a Draupadi award, people get very, very, shaken. That
Very
why would you
true.
say?
Very true. Very true. Coral, I was going through your website and it says an author and everything else that goes into it. So what goes into it? What goes into being an author? I mean, you are a painter. I also saw a lot of paintings, and I mean, what goes into staying creative, committing to your art for the entire life? How would you put it for others?
I think a lot of observation, a lot of sensitivity, a lot of feeling dejected by things that doesn't matter in the long run. you know then remembering things that things that my husband has done 10 years ago, वो मैं आज भी उठा उठा के उसको, I can put it on his head that तुमने मुझे उस दिन ये किया था, वो किया था. So all these things, funny or bitter, all the life experiences, I think they are on the back of our heads.
All the time, yes.
Our subconscious is very, very
Large.
active. Yes,
Yes.
our subconscious is very, very active. We are constantly hearing from our subconscious and
Yeah.
uh, putting things back to the subconscious. All these things, I think, go into the making of an author. And along with that, the constant habit of reading, looking at what other authors are doing, feeling jealous and angry at their achievement.
That's very honest of you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, why not? I
Yeah,
mean,
it does keep
when
you
someone
going, no?
is,
If you see
yeah,
people shining, it keeps you going. So you feel that
it
okay, this
is
is also achievable.
it is not just about the award. There are times when I read someone else's writing and one paragraph, and then you feel that how could something like this not come to
So
me?
did
I mean,
any
why
author
is
make you
this
jealous in
not?
the recent time by their
Yeah,
writing?
yeah, 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 yeah. Shoikat Majumdar does. Kiran
Okay.
Mandral does.
Okay.
There are so many. There are so many.
Yes, that's
And
true.
I tell
Sometimes
them, I mean, our we have a common language for that. I jealous you.
because it happens, no? I mean, when you read something very amazing and you're like, oh shit, why I couldn't write this or why couldn't I think of this? And yeah, I can totally relate to it, and probably which is why I am like stuck or happily stuck with talking to authors for almost a decade now. So I mean, thank you very much, Coral, for your time and for uh, giving us a peek into your mind, which is what excites me, which is what is my objective with Authors Corner. I wish you all the best,
Thank
and
you so
maybe I
much,
see you
Jen.
once all your 5 books are out, up and running.
Absolutely. And
So Sati,
sometime I hope in
Draupadi,
this
and Kunti is out there, guys.
Kunti, Ahalya, Kunti, and Draupadi.
Ahalya Kunti,
Sati is the
sorry,
name of
Sati
the
is the
series.
series name, sorry.
Yeah.
Ahalya, Kunti, and Draupadi. I'm definitely going to check Ahalya because I have no clue who she is, what she does. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Bye
Jen.
bye.
Bye.